Hi everyone, this is Professor Ramanthizen. Everybody calls me Professor V, but I wanted to do a course overview video to kind of walk you through how this course is set up, since this is a fully online course and we don't meet face to face. So what you're looking at are the different modules. This is how I have this course and all of my courses set up. It is our home page. If you click on the modules page, you'll see this exact same thing. So let's start with the course syllabus. You will have a syllabus quiz that you'll need to take, so make sure you take a good look at all the information in here. It's not that long. I'm just going to kind of briefly walk you through it. I'm not going to read you everything. So here's my email address if you need to get a hold of me. You can also use the Canvas inbox function. Either one will work okay. This is the Anatomy and Physiology 2 lecture component. The lab is a separate component, 3 credit hours, and our section number if needed. So this is a fast track 12-week course. So when we walk through the schedule, you will see that you have pretty much an exam every 2 to 3 weeks because it is a 12-week course. Important dates: first day of class is tomorrow, Monday, September 15th. Last day to drop this class with a full refund would be Friday, September 19th. And if you would like to withdraw from this course, you have until November 5th. So this is a little bit of the course description. Basically, it's a continuation of A&P1. So all of the organ systems that you didn't cover in A&P1, you will be covering in A&P2, like cardiovascular system, respiratory, digestive, so on and so forth. What's included with your Hawk bundle as required materials is going to be the 12th edition of the Pearson Human Anatomy and Physiology platform. I'll show you how to access the code for this shortly after we finish the syllabus. Evaluative criteria is your standard grading scale, so 90 to 100 is an A, 80 to 89 is a B, so on and so forth. I automatically round up, so if you have an 89.5 at the end of the semester, you don't have to do anything. I will input an A as your final grade. Same thing as 79.5, so on and so forth. I do, however, always have students ask, well, what happens if I have an 89.2? If you have an 89.2, 89.3, 79.1, something like that, I will reach out to you at the end of the semester. You can reach out to me to see if there's anything that we can do to get you to the 89.5 or 79.5 to help round you up to the next grading level. However, if you have an 88, 87, even if it's an 88.8, that's going to be your final grade, the B or the C, because we cannot move grades beyond 1%. But we'll talk more about that, or I'll send out a message closer to the end of the semester. This is our course breakdown. So your 5 lecture exams represent 75% of your grade. There also is a cumulative final. Your lowest lecture grade, either whether it's a unit exam or a cumulative final, will be dropped. So after you take your 5 unit exams, if you have an A in the class, you do not need to take the cumulative final. You will get a 0 for the cumulative final, but the day after the cumulative final closes, I will go in and implement the lowest exam grade drop. So even if you do poorly on one of the unit exams, don't stress, because you still get the option to take the cumulative final to replace your lowest unit exam grade. I don't implement the exam grade drop until after the cumulative final has closed, because it always gives students a false sense of their overall grade if I started at the beginning of the semester and it's dropping your lowest grade. Assignments, there's a variety of different assignments. Most of it is going to be the Pearson assignments, which I'll show you in a little bit. You might have had them in A&P1. There sometimes are some discussion boards that are included within the assignment grading category, and some worksheets as well. So all of these collectively represent 20% of your grade, and then there's a project that's going to be worth 5% of your overall grade, and I'll show you that in a little bit as well. Attendance. Because this is a fast-paced online course, I encourage you to log into Canvas and work on the material daily. However, if you have several consecutive days, maybe a week, where you're not logging in, I'll probably reach out to you. If I don't hear a response, I'll do an instructor withdrawal from the course for you. I don't really do late work because I'll show you in a little bit, but everything is open and available to you now. You could finish this course as quickly as you wanted to, or you could wait till the last minute and do the deadlines that are provided to you in Canvas in the course schedule. So because technically everything is open and you can go ahead and do ahead of time, I don't do any late work. However, I do understand that things come up and sometimes you are unable to complete the assignment by the due date. You can still go in and complete it. There's just going to be a 5% grade penalty per day late, which really isn't anything. So some points are better than no points. So I would still encourage you to go in and submit your Pearson assignments, even if it's past the due date, your worksheets, your discussion boards, things like that. Here are the lecture exam schedule. So here's the 5 exams and the cumulative final and what it's going to cover. And the absolute date that you have to submit it by is listed here by 11:59 p.m. But like I said, all of these exams are open. So you could go in and complete everything in 6 weeks if you feel like it. Obviously no cheating. There's an honor lock acknowledgement that you'll need to sign where you can go in and read violations during testing, which could result in you losing points. And I'll show you that as well. The rest of this stuff I just have to put in here so you can go in and take a look at that. So let's look at the course schedule. So this is our course schedule. So lecture exam 1 is going to cover 17 and 21. These are your assignments that are due in that unit right there. Everything is due for that exam. All the assignments, discussion boards, worksheets, if there are any, are due at 11:59 p.m. the night before the lecture exam. So to help keep you organized and keep things uniform, all of the assignments are always going to be due on a Sunday. As you can see here, those are in blue, with the exception of the project. And then all of your lecture exams are going to be on a Monday and close at 11:59 p.m. Again, close. Everything is open. So if that Monday doesn't work for you, you could take it the Saturday before, you could take it the Sunday before, you could take it the Friday before, you could take it tomorrow if you wanted to. So everybody should be able to find a good time and day in order to take these exams because you have them available to you at any point. So again, here's the due dates for all the assignments for that unit, and this is when the exam will close for that unit. Okay, so this is your project. I can't remember what the due December 1st. Here's kind of an overview of what the project is. Basically, what you're doing is picking some sort of disease or disorder, making a PowerPoint presentation. You can use Canva, you can use whatever platform you want to make your slideshow. And then you're going to present a recorded presentation that's about 8 to 12 minutes on your disease or disorder that you chose. So there is a rubric. You can go in and take a look at the rubric. You have to upload your presentation to the discussion board by Monday, December 1st. And then I give you a couple days to go in and view other students' projects. You have to view at least 2 in order to get full points by Thursday, December 4th. And you need to make 2 thoughtful comments, not, hey, great job. You need to either ask a question or make a comment that indicated that you actually watched the student's presentation. As far as what format that you uploaded in, that's totally your choice. You can screen record like I'm doing now. You can submit a PowerPoint presentation where you just record your voice over each slide. There's a whole variety of ways that you can complete this presentation. Your face does not have to be in the presentation at all, but it needs to be you and your voice walking through all the slides that you have. And you have some flexibility. So what disease disorder? I always recommend picking something that you can relate to. So, because then it's more interesting for you to research or to learn about. But it needs to be something relevant to AMP2, one of the organ systems we cover here. So, a muscle disorder, something like that, wouldn't really be relevant because you did the muscular system in AMP1. A nervous system disorder, like multiple sclerosis, wouldn't really be relevant because you did the nervous system and talked about the myelin sheath in AMP1. But we cover way more organ systems in AMP2, so you should be able to find something. It could be endocrine related, digestive, cardiovascular, a blood disorder, digestive, urinary system, because those are the things in the organ systems that we cover. So you can pick whatever you think of, but somebody might have the disease to make it more interesting or disorder. You yourself might have something that you like to research more about or know about that you would like to present on. So you have a lot of flexibility in both what you choose and how you present your presentation. So these are the instructions that you need to include with whatever disease or disorder. So you need to have your disease name, introduction, so on, as signs and symptoms. I always really like interesting facts. Also, try to find some unique things about that. This is just an example layout to make sure you hit all of the above points. So slide 1, you could put the name of the disease. Slide 2 could be a basic description. Make sure you include some images and make it kind of interesting to look at, so on and so forth. You do not have to follow this layout. This is just an example. If you need 15 slides or 20 slides to get your information in, that's totally okay. This is the grading rubric, so you can take a look at how I will grade them. Basically, if you cover everything, you get full points. I rarely have students who lose points as long as they're submitting the project itself. Most students do a really fantastic job, and I really enjoy watching them. But this is how you're awarded the 100 points, so you can take a look at that. That's what I'll actually be looking at, again, when I go to grade it. And the final thing under the project is where you're going to upload your presentation. I would just be careful, whatever the extension of .heic is. Some people can't open that. I think it's from a Mac. So you might, like I said, do a PowerPoint, do some sort of screen recording. You can also upload it to YouTube and then post the YouTube link here. So again, huge flexibility. This is the due date here. Okay, so like I mentioned, I have everything set up by modules. So let's just kind of show you module 1. Each of the modules will unlock, not at a certain day or time, but once you complete the prerequisite. So the prerequisite for lecture exam 1 is that you look at all the information and the important information, start here module, and click on everything, and then your lecture exam 1 module will open. Once you complete everything in the lecture exam 1 module, your lecture exam 2 module will open. So even if you completed everything in 3 days, including the exam, then again, the lecture exam 2 module will open. You can begin working on that. But these are the absolute due dates that you will need to take the exams and submit the assignments by that are listed here. So at the top of each exam module, there's a to-do list. Some students like to use this. You don't have to use it. It's totally up to you. But basically things that you need to do, and usually I put it in the order that you should do it. So for example, make sure you've read the syllabus and course schedule, take a look at the project module, things like that. Post your reply to the introduction to class discussion board, sign the honor lock acknowledgement, so on and so forth. So this is the things that need to be done for that module, and then I have the due dates down here for the assignments, as well as when the lecture exam will close. So that's the same dates that you saw on the schedule. So that's always there for you. Sometimes I put other information in there, so it's worth taking a look at. So for example, for the Pearson assignments, you do not have to finish the Pearson assignment in one sitting. You can come back later. However, if you only got 2 points, say out of the 20 points on the Pearson assignment, before you had to go, then that grade is going to be transferred over to Canvas. So you'll see a 2 out of the 20 until you go in and complete the rest of it. Then that grade will sync over. So that's the to-do list. The first little section within each of the exam modules is going to be the PowerPoints. These are my PowerPoints that I made. They're not the stock Pearson PowerPoints. Some students will get a little overwhelmed. I'm not sure how many is in this one. Let's take a look. There's 122 slides for chapter 17, and you might feel incredibly overwhelmed. AMP2 and the organ systems covered has an enormous amount of information. So the stock PowerPoints from Pearson contain roughly 400 slides per chapter. So when you open chapter 17 and you see 122 slides, that's really the core information that you need to know to be successful on the exam, because I have trimmed so much information to really just give you the stuff that you need to know and that will be tested. So 122 might seem like a lot, but that's really a little over 1/4 of what was originally in the Pearson PowerPoints. So make sure you know everything in all of my PowerPoints. Any of that is fair game on an exam. Additionally, I'll put in the PowerPoints like, don't worry about this section, don't worry about knowing this, so on and so forth. So those are the 2 PowerPoints for the chapters that are going to be covered on the lecture exam. There's also a lecture playlist. So if I were giving you the lecture face-to-face, this is what you would be hearing-ish. So you can use the lecture playlist. Is it required that you watch the lectures? No. You could study the PowerPoints and then go in and read your textbook. But how I recommend for students to study in order to be successful in AP2 is first study the PowerPoints, get the basic information down, make sure you know that backwards and forwards, and then either read your textbook or watch the lecture playlist to help tie that information together. Because what's listed in the PowerPoints is really just descriptions, but a lot of the organ systems that are covered in AMP2, you have to understand how these systems work. So to help tie all the information and the pieces of facts that are in the PowerPoints together, your best bet is, again, after you've studied the PowerPoints, to go in and watch the playlist or to read your textbook. Here's all your assignments. So this is what's due for the first lecture exam. Introduction to class. I ask everybody to go in and post a little introduction. Also a photo of yourself, because this is an online course, to kind of make it more personal. Answer a couple questions. And here's my blurb. So I have a bachelor's in biomedical sciences. I have 2 masters from the University of Florida. One's in microbiology. The other one's in pharmaceutical chemistry. And I'm also currently a PhD student at the University of Florida. My lab is in Lake Alfred, and I'm working on inhibiting biofilm formation in CLAS. So that's just some interesting stuff about me. But I would like for you to post an introduction about yourself as well. And that is an assignment grade. Here's the honor lock acknowledgement. I usually don't have any issues with it. It says it's a quiz. It's not really a quiz, but basically what this is telling you is that the exams are going to be proctored with honor lock. You have to have a camera. Don't cheat. If you are consistently looking away from the screen, you're going to lose points. If you have somebody talking in the background, you're going to lose points. If you are using notes, because these are all closed note exams, you will lose points, things like that. So these are ways that you can lose points, also that are indicating that you're cheating on an exam. So yes, you cannot use notes, things like that. It is proctored. Additionally, most of you are probably taking this AMP2 course because you're going into some sort of healthcare related field. Well, the information in this course is really beneficial and helpful for whatever healthcare pathway you plan to take. A lot of the T's, if you're going into nursing, the science section, a lot of it comes from A&P2, not so much from A&P1. So it's really important that you actually learn this information as well. So all you have to do after you read this is type your name down here, and that's the completion of that assignment. The syllabus quiz, you have 2 attempts on this. Basically, it's asking you how many exams do you have? Does your lowest lecture exam grade get dropped? Yes, things like that. Why you really have the syllabus quiz and why is it proctored is kind of as a test to make sure that you are meeting all the computer requirements in order to test via honor lock. So you have 2 attempts, like I said, but to go in and make sure you install honor lock and do all of those things, and it's working correctly before you actually take your lecture exam. Also, if you've never taken an exam via honor lock, having this practice with the syllabus quiz can maybe reduce some anxiety by having your first lecture exam proctored. And then you have homework. So anytime you see the homework, these are Pearson assignments. So when you click on these, it will link you to the Pearson platform. You'll go in and answer those. So let's talk about course materials before I forget. You'll need to click on the actual course materials over here. When you click on the course materials, you should see your textbook listed for this class. And what you're going to do is you're going to click Reveal Access Code. That's the first thing you need to do. Then when you actually click on your first Pearson assignment, which is the Chapter 17 homework, it will ask you to enter in an access code. You're going to enter in the access code that you just revealed under course materials. Once you do that one time, your Pearson account will be synced to this Canvas course. If you've never had a Pearson account before, it will prompt you to create a Pearson account. So you'll need to go in and do that. That's free. If you have had a Pearson account for A&P1 or a previous course, you can just enter in your login information there. There is a guide for each lecture exam. My recommendation to you is to not fill out the guide. If you want to be successful in this course, how you should use the guide is really for recall. So for example, study all of the information in the PowerPoints for Chapter 17. Go in and read the textbook. Make sure you understand how things are functioning, and then take a look at the guide. So, and see, hey, functions of blood, transport, regulation, and protection. Do I understand those functions? What can I remember about those functions? What are the components? Components of the 3 layers after they've been centrifuged. If you can't remember the layers or the order of the layers after blood has been separated via centrifuge, then that's indicating that you need to go back and study that area. So really use it for recall rather than filling out, because I find students that fill out the study guide, they will only study that and you'll miss so much other information. I do write the guides myself, so there's other things, like for example, it says electrolytes, you do not need to know specific examples. However, plasma proteins, yes, you do need to know those and the functions. You do not need to know specific examples for the hormones. We'll cover that in the endocrine system, so on and so forth. So make sure you do take a look at it, because I do give you some hints at what to focus on in each of those chapters. There is also a discussion board for each exam, so I encourage you to post questions you have about the exam 1 material. You can also post videos maybe that you found to the discussion board that you found were helpful for the material. So it's just a good way to interact. I will try to check the discussion boards for the exams fairly regularly, and I'll go in myself and answer some of the questions. But if you know the answer to another student's question, I also encourage you to reply and post a response there. So then once you finish all the lecture exam 1 material, lecture exam 2 module will open, and you'll see the exact same thing. There are some optional assignments, and all the optional assignments are usually worth bonus points. So this particular worksheet is actually a series of worksheets. This is an optional assignment bonus. So you click that. Any of the worksheets, you have a couple of options in the way that you can submit them. This is a PDF, so you can download it. If you have an iPad, you can go in and write it and then re-upload your PDF with the responses. You can also print it out and then take pictures of the worksheets and upload it. You could also convert it to a Word document and type in your responses. It's up to you how you do it. So this is worth 15 assignment bonus points. And this is a good bit of work, but really this is some background information that you should already know to help get you ready for the cardiovascular system, which is a lot of information. So these are things that you should have learned in A&P 1, just some reminders and some other things in here. And again, it's meant to help you with that section. It's not meant to be busy work at all. So I'm not going to walk you through each lecture exam I just wanted to walk you through one. The last thing I want to point out is the cumulative final. So again, if you finish lecture exam 5 and you have an A in the course, do not take the cumulative final. You will get a 0, but then that will be dropped. However, if you want to take the cumulative final, this is a guide. This is the only guide I encourage you to actually fill out. And the reason why is because there are 50 questions on the cumulative final, and there are 50 points or questions on the guide. So basically, if it says for the first one, describe what happens when you centrifuge whole blood, question 1 is about what happens when you centrifuge whole blood. Question 2 is going to be about the lineage from which all formed elements are derived, so probably the name of the cell, so on and so forth. So for the cumulative final, it's basically because we've covered so much material in this course by the end, it's pretty much telling you exactly the topic of what each of the questions are on. The other study guides do not function that way. So again, please don't fill them out. Use them for recall. Okay, I hope this video was helpful and you kind of understand how the course is set up. If you have any questions, please feel free to email me. I will respond usually within 24 hours, actually usually within a couple hours, worst case scenario, 24 hours.